A car out of one. I pray this devil died and get every evil thing the Lord got to give. And listen, I know you look at us in the state we in right now. Come here, SHALAM. Come here, SHALAM. I know you look at us in the state we in right now. Black people on drugs and we suffering and dying. And I know it seems like you can do whatever you want to this people. I know it seems like this, but the time for glorifying yourself is soon at an end.
James, and also what you find on the right is called a coat of arms. So anyone who was rich, and basically they would basically have a coat of arms showing their kingship and their dominion. And as you can see, this coat of arms has a man who is obviously black, and the headband on his head, that's white. So it wasn't that they didn't know how to paint someone white, because obviously, as you can see, the headband that he has on is white. Next slide. Alright, so now many people tried to cover up the fact that black Jews ruled at that time through whitewash paintings and distortion of history as well. So for example, this is the original painting of what you find of John and what you would find of Peter. So now, as you can see in this picture on the left, they are a more darker complexion, but now the one on the right, after it's been whitewashed, they look more white now. So they've taken the blackness away from them. Also on this one here, this is about Christ. When if you read the Bible, basically once they looked at him, his garment was white and he had a glow on him as well. So the picture on the right shows that he's of a dark skin, and then once they have finished whitewashing it, now they don't look as black as they did in the original painting. And the same again, this is another picture. As you can see, they're so dark you can't even see how they actually look. And as you see now, once they finish whitewashing it, then now look, everyone in the picture looks white. Next slide. And again, this is another one. This is another painting now who we call Jesus Christ. As you can see, he's a dark-skinned man. His hair is like a woolly textured kind of hair. And as you can see, his hands is dark. Then now, with this Greek Orthodox painter, he has black images behind him, as you can see, where the red dot is. So he's got black images behind him. And then he's painting a white one on his right hand side, and then once he's done with that, at the end, that's where you get the end result, which is a white painting of Christ. Next slide. So now this is a book called The Icons by Kurt Wiseman. Now on page 11, if I can read it, here it goes. Yeah, if you want to read that.
Iconoclasm, the nation looting in 1204, and the sack by the Turks in 1453.
Alright, so for those that don't know, with the Ottoman Turks, they took over the Byzantine Empire. Now at that time, we was in control of the ancient Byzantine Empire at that time, but then through basically Ottoman Turks, they managed to get us out of that land. If you can read on.
Are the main reasons why only few icons have survived.
There, so through the Ottoman Turks, that's the reason why few icons have survived. And for those that don't know, if you look up the word, it just means a religious painting. So basically through them, that's the reason why many of these paintings you do not see. Read on.
In Constantinople proper, it may seem darling therefore to write an entire chapter on the icons of the capital, yet the situation is not quite so hopeless as might appear at first glance. Icons existed not only as panel paintings but also frescoes and wall mosaics, some of which have emerged from layers of whitewash.
There, so they came through layers of whitewash. Now, for those that don't know, whitewashing is when an original painting is black, and then basically through their art, they end up transferring it to white. So first they paint it once, make it dry, then they will go over that same painting again, and then basically through a long time, that painting becomes white. So the hair isn't like a black man's hair anymore, and even the color of his skin is not the same anymore as well. But I mean, that's basically good for that page. If you can go to the next slide. So now, this is a book called Sex and Race by a man called J.A. Rogers, and this is at page 91. All I need is just the highlighted part at the top. Should we read that?
Sex and Race, Volume 1 by J.A. Rogers. Were the Jews originally Negroes? European painters and sculptures, by the use of white models.
By the use of what?
White models.
There, so whenever they would replace a black painting and put a white man there, they wouldn't just make it off their mind. They would basically get someone, a famous white person at that time, and then they'll basically paint him in that same in that same way as well. Read on.
To typify biblical characters, have falsified tremendously the ancient Jews.
There, so basically through many whitewashings of paintings, that's the reason why whenever you say Christ is black and the ancient Jews are black, people find that odd, because through many of their works they have painted many pictures white. So that's why now when we're out here saying that the real Jews are black, people find that strange. If you can go to the next slide. So now, by the same guy, J.A. Rogers, but now this one's called Nature Knows No Color Lines, and this is this is pages 122 and the 130th page. So now we're gonna prove that the people that was kings and queens in Scotland, Britain, and also other parts as well, yes, they were black, but also that they were Jews as well.
Right.
So you can read the top one first.
Nature Knows No Color Line, page 122. Most of the Negro strain in Northern Europe and Russia was taken in by the Jews.
It was taken in by who?
Taken in by the Jews.
There, so those black icons that you see, those same people were Jews. If you can read on.
Who, in spite of religious prejudice against them, intermarried with Christians, as Maurice Fishberg.
There, so that guy there, Maurice, he's a scholar, and even he knew as well that many of those black paintings that you see and the black strain that they came with, that came from the Jews, showing that what the real Jews are black as well. If you can read the next one.
Page 130, Negro ancestry in the white race. Settled in the West Indies, John Bigelow, who visited Jamaica in 1850, saw the descendants of these Jews and says they were Negroid.
There, so he went to islands like Jamaica, and even he knew that the real ancient Jews, they were black. Now, why did he go to Jamaica? Why? Because he knows that the same people that was on the transatlantic slave trade, those are the same people that you will find in Jamaica, and he knew that they were the Jews. If you can read on.
The Eastern Jews who settled in Austria, Poland, and Russia were Negroid.
There, so even scholars, they understand that. So basically, Jews settled in Austria, Poland, and guess what? That was us. So those ancient paintings that you see, that's us, and that's the history that they tried to hide from us as well. The next slide. So now, if you look at the top, this is the website where you can find this from. Now, in the ancient times in Germany, there's a house of K. Now, as you can see, that's a coat of arms, which I was on about before. So any king or anybody who was rich, they will have a coat of arms showing who they are and where they are from as well. So now this one says K. Now it goes, K is a German nation which is derived from the Hebrew, which means Jacob. So even they knew, once they traced back this word, it basically led back to the Hebraic language, which means Jacob, which means to supplant. So even they knew, in Germany at this time, the house of K, who was black people, they also knew that this was a family of Jews. And basically, if you go onto the website, you can also read more about them. But they also made Germany very rich and very prosperous at that time. You can go to the next slide. So now, before the house of K, who here has heard of the Anglo-Saxons? Raise your hands. Well, how much of you know that the Anglo-Saxons was actually us? That was a family of black Jews that basically migrated into Germany. Then they took over Britain and even some of Scotland as well. And this ain't just something that we're making up. This is something that European scholars, they can even attest to that as well. So now it goes, the names Saxon, Saxesuna means sons of Sake, all definitely referred to the sons of Isaac. Now, when you read the Bible, the people that came from him was us. You know, you had Abraham, Isaac, then you had Jacob as well. So the Anglo-Saxons, they knew who they were. And if you look up the definition of the word, you will get sons of Isaac. Then it goes, according to the Encyclopedia Britannica, the Angli or the Angelas were a branch of Saxons. The Anglo-Saxons, now their base name was called Saxons, but then once they came to Britain, that's when they became the Anglo-Saxons, because once they came to Britain, they called it England, and that's where they got the name Anglo-Saxons from. Invaded England in the 4th, 5th and 6th centuries. So now that's just a little bit of a background on them for someone who doesn't know who the Anglo-Saxons may be or what they had done. Then it goes, Camden seems to completely agree with Turner in identifying such people as the Saxons, Sake, Saxones, sons of Sake. So these are many definitions of it. Saxones. No, they came from Scythia. Now, when you read the Bible, there's a scripture where it goes, there's no Jew, no Greek, no Scythians. Now, there was scattered Jews that remained in that land, and it was referring to them. He says that these people kept almost close to one another in Europe as they had before in Asia. So now, it was a family of Jews that always kept close one to another. You can go to the next slide. Now, of course, I'm not going to read all of this. I'm going to just fly through the main points. So it goes, the greatest Saxon historians, Sharon Turner, in History of the Anglo-Saxons, and that's the book and all the references, trace the word Saxon to Saxona, meaning the sons of Sake, and that's go to how Ptolemy, he also came across them as well. Then it goes, let me find it. Yeah, so now, with the part which is in a more darker type of writing, it goes, they were a people thought by good writers to be descendants from the Scythians. Now, when you read the Bible, there was Jews scattered in the land which was them, afterwards called Saxons. With the flood of the nations came into Europe about the time of the decline of the Roman Empire. So once the Romans declined, they came into that part of the world, and then for those that don't know, they came to Germany. If you can go to the next slide. So now, the origins of Saxons by Raymond F. McNair. Many simply cannot believe the plain records of the ancient peoples. So with some people, they go, well, things that are written in the past, you don't need to worry about that, because a lot of them, they really just pass things on by, basically they just told their kids and it went on. So when they writ it down, some of it is a lie, it's a myth. So that's what some scholars do believe. But it goes, sorry, many people, Asian peoples who came from the British Isles, they just can't seem to believe that these people could really be descendants of Shem. So many scholars know that the Anglo-Saxons came from a Shemitic background. We shall notice the same tendency for critics of a Scottish-Irish history. They think the early history, when they call it folklore, so that's what some people say. They say things that are written in the past, it's just a myth. People say they came from Shem, Abraham, Isaac. All of it don't really exist. Of these people cannot be true when it connects such peoples directly to the lands and peoples mentioned in the Bibles. So now with some people go, well, the Bible is not a credible book. So really, if someone claims to be of a Shemitic background, then really it's a lie, and they don't really believe that, you know what I mean, anyone can really trace their background that far. Now it goes, so now the Bible, now it goes, however, Alfred the Great, who himself was a Saxon, which in brackets means a son of Isaac, traced his genealogy back to Shem and back to Adam. So the Anglo-Saxons knew who they were, and they knew the background that they also came from as well. If you can go to the next slide. So now, here is the proof that the British descended from Shem. Now have in mind, when it says the British, it ain't talking about the so-called white people that we see now. It's talking about the British of that time. When the Anglo-Saxons came over, they was basically they was called the British at that time. So now it goes, here's the proof that the British had descended from Shem and therefore were Shemitic. Alfred the Great, which we read before, he could also trace his genealogy back. Saxons descended from Shem. This same quotation continues. What's his name? Can't see from over here. Heronad, the son of Shem, the son of Noah, the son of Lamech, the son of Methuselah, the son of Enoch, the son of Mahalalel, the son of Canaan, the son of Enos, the son of Seth, and the son of Adam. So even King Alfred the Great, his dad, he also had the same genealogy as well. So Alfred the Great, who was himself a Saxon, traced his genealogy back to Shem. So now they clearly knew who they was and also where they came from as well. If you can go to the next slide. Let me see if I need any of this. Yes, so now with this lets you know that the ancient British Celts, they were of a Shemitic origin, both on the accounts of the relics of worship. So, okay, even though they was following many pagan beliefs, they still knew that that came from a Shemitic background, which we find in Britain and also in the account of the language. So, for instance, in Scotland, a young boy, what do they call a young boy in Scotland?
A lad.
A lad. Now, that word is actually a Hebrew word, yalad, which means just a young man. So even by the language and also certain words that they say, shows that these people was of a Shemitic background. Where my license shows that there are literally thousands of words in the English language which come from the Hebrew language, so they understand this. Now, even though they don't let you understand it, they are fully aware of who the Anglo-Saxons were and also where they came from also as well. In matter of fact, we can go to the next slide. The rest of that, it just basically says the exact same thing. So now it goes, for any who still might have any lingering doubts, because some people may be thinking, yes, it's some good things that we are bringing out, but you haven't yet brought it home. So what we're going to do now, we're going to show you that without a shadow of a doubt, they was Jews and they were also Shemitic. So for any who still might have lingering doubts regarding the similarity between the Hebrew and the early British languages, which were used by its ancient peoples, one need only to study the present-day Welsh. There are many strong similarities between the modern Welsh and the Hebrew. So now all you would need to do is get a Welsh dictionary and also study the Hebrew language as well, and you will see that it's clear that those languages came from us, because with the ancient Hebrew language, that's the original language of us. And guess what? They know through their research as well that, guess what? Many of the, basically a lot of the phrases and the words that they have all comes from the Hebrew language. Even one who is unskilled of these languages cannot fail to detect a close similarity between the spoken Hebrew language when contrasted with the modern Welsh. So even they know this ain't nothing hard. This is something you can look up for yourself as well. You can go to the next slide. So now back to the book. Nature knows no color lines. Now, if you buy this book, this will be at page 83 to the 107th page. So now, as you can see on my left, this will be all coats of arms. So now he went all over and he found many of these found in Britain, found in Yorkshire, all over in Scotland, Germany, found in Poland, all over that continent. You can go to the next slide. I mean, in the book there's lots, but we're just getting main ones. So as you can see, all these people in the coats of arms are black. And as I said before, it was Jews that came and dominated these lands. So by default, if these people are black, then what would that let you understand?
Jews are black.
So that would let you know that the real Jews are black. So all these coats of arms right here, if you can go to the next slide. And again, here are some more. Now this one right here, all of this is found through Scotland and Britain, and as you can see, all of them are black. So many black kings and queens we had at that time, as you can see through all of these coats of arms. Next slide. Now here is King James. You know, many people say King James was white, homosexual. You know, you get so many things said about him, but a lot of people don't even know that King James, he was black, and also he was a Jew as well, which as we go through this, we will also back that point up also as well. So as you can see, this is I wouldn't call it a coat of arms, but this is a ancient painting of King James, and where I have the red dot, it says Jacobus, which James just meant Jacob. So you know, so basically really his name would be actually King Jacob. Now over here is another painting of him, and you can find it in the library, Edinburgh, UK. So you know, so it's not some painting that a man just made up. It's research that you can actually find too. You can go to the next slide. So now, this is a book called When Scotland Was Jewish. So now, King James himself was a Jew from the tribe of Judah. So when you get that book, that'll be page 21 of the book, I believe, just the highlighted parts. So now, they knew who they were, and also which tribe of the Jews that they had came from as well.
When Scotland was Jewish, page 21, the Stuart family, maternal line in France, was descended from the tribe of Judah.
There, so that's it right there. I mean, the rest, it goes into the same thing, but basically with King James and basically his grandparents as well, they knew that they were from the tribe of Judah. Next slide. Now this is another book called Ancient and Modern Britons, Volume 1 by David McRitchie. Now we have shown that King James is black and is a Jew, but now we are going to show you that his parents and his family going way back was black as well. When we turn to page 206, you can go to the next slide. Now, as you can see, I'm not able to read it from here, but in the highlighted parts, it will just let you know that his family, which was the black Douglases, they was also black. Like, your last name showed the color of your skin. It ain't like now where, you know, we just call the Gordons and, I mean, whatever last name that you may have. If your last name was Gardner, it was because your family, they used to cut grass, they was gardeners. So if your name was called Douglas, it was because you was black, Doug, even names like that. You was called that because of the color of your skin or on the job that you used to do. But if you want to read the highlighted parts.
Ancient and Modern Britons, page 206. But it was only with Barber's description of his complexion that we have to do here. And this, he says, was Semdale grey and his hair being black. As already stated, Godscroft remarks, he is said to have been of black and swart complexion.
There's now, King James's family came from the Douglases, and they were known to be of a black and a swarth complexion. Now, for those that don't know, swarth itself, if you look up that word, it means black. Like, for instance, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Schwarz means black. With the Nazis, they had the Swarte sticker, and Swartz just means black. So basically, his family, they were called the Black Douglases, not because they was bad people, but they was called the Black Douglases simply because they was just black. Read on.
An expression somewhat stronger than that used by Barber. This dusty skin earned for him, say the historians.
There, so his dusty skin earned him that name. Now obviously this book was written by a white man, so he's been a bit offensive when he calls it dusty skin, you know, he's being a little bit rude. But regardless of that, he's letting you know that these people was actually black. Read on.
The Black Douglas, and although the good Sir James to his friends, he was such a terror to his foes that their most troublesome children could at once be hushed into good behavior by a single threat.
There, so also as well as of him being black as well, he wasn't a joke. Meaning anywhere he went, he dominated everything. So also in Scotland, these black people wasn't around, and basically, you know, someone was actually above them. They was actually the dominating class in Scotland too. If you go to the next page, just read the highlighted parts on the next page.
There is indeed every reason to believe that it served no more to distinguish from him other Black Douglases than the black man.
There, so that's clear. So you can't distinguish other Black Douglases simply from just being a black man. So yes, he was called a Douglas, but it wasn't just him alone. So there was many Scottish families with the name of Douglas. Why? Because all of them was black and had came to Scotland. That's it, and that, I mean, the rest, it will basically be going over the exact same thing. If you can go to the next slide. Even the next slide is basically saying the exact same thing. Don't want to bore people. So now, this is another book written by Dr. John L. Johnson. He reads the black rulers of the British, so black rulers of the Scottish and British Isles. So now, for those that don't know, this book, you can't just buy it anywhere because they actually banned this book from the UK. You know, he released it and they stopped it, and they also banned him from coming to the UK also as well. So now, if you want this book, you have to go on his website and then you have to obviously buy the book off him, then he will get it sent onto you. So it's not nothing you can just buy it, you know, like a website like Amazon or whatever other bookshops that they may have. You can go to the next slide. Alright, now with the book, all of it's good, but I just wanted just to get the vocabulary part. I don't know if you can see it here, but this is a list of last names, and all of them show black Douglases, and there's lots of others. So in Scotland, many people that had these names, it was basically showing you that these people was black. So in Scotland, basically he done his research and he realized at that time, if people had those names as their last names, then by default they was black, because as I said before, your last name came by the occupation that you had or the job that you done. You got some of those?
Yeah. Douglas, black, Negro, Niger, derived from the word Douglas, meaning black, and more.
Yeah, is there any more? Just so.
Doyle, a black stranger, derives from the word double, a black more.
There, so I mean, there's lots there, but Doyle, and also all of these other names was showing that if that was your last name, that would show you that you was a so-called black man. If you can go to the next slide. So now, in that same book, at the end of it, there's a poem which basically, this is an old Scottish poem, and it goes, it's like, they are distinguishing between black and white Scottish people, letting you understand that Scotland is very aware that they had black people there in the ancient times. Do you want to read it, or I'll read it from here? Alright. Got it?
The Scots, black Scots and red Scots and black Scots. I hate dealt the red Scot and dealt with the black Scot.
There, so now the white Scots are saying they dealt with the black Scots. So for those that don't know, a lot of us died, and eventually the power that you had in those lands, that was also taken away from us. And also, what a lot of people don't understand, many slave ships that came from Scotland and also them parts, they went to islands like Montserrat, and those people are black as well when you also look it up. So they basically dealt with us. They basically took us from dominating that land, and then they also sold us into slavery also as well. Read on.
The red Scot is angry among the sons. Oh men, he'll pay you a barbie and steal it back again.
There, so now they look down on the red Scots. Now for those that don't know, the red Scots were those that had mixed with someone who was black, so they even looked down on them as well. So now they're making a racist joke saying that they would basically buy something off you and then they would take it back again. Just like today, people have many racist jokes about black people as well. They also had jokes about the red Scots. If you want to read the other paragraph too.
Black Scots and red Scots and black Scots. I dealt with the red Scot and deal with the black Scot.
And there, so the rest of that goes into something else, but even they are aware that black Scots were in the land And yes, they basically did deal with us, and that's why there ain't no one black dominating in Scotland anymore. You can go to the next slide. So now, I went through Britain and Scotland, but also in Germany and also other parts. These guys called Saint Maurice. As you can see, this is a painting of him in 1522. He was a famous knight. That's his coin, as you can see by the texture of the hair, the nose, the lips. And this is another statue of him, and as you can see, he's very dark. And even over here as well, this is a similar painting to the one on the left as well. Next slide. Now, Saint George the Dragon Slayer, many people have heard of him. Now, this is a book called The Art Treasures of Russia. Now, as you can see, in this same book, Saint George the Dragon Slayer, he's depicted as a black man. I mean, if you pass the book around, you can see that, but I mean, from here, it may not be the best view of it. So he's black, and in the picture on the bottom right, you also see many Catholic bishops as well, and they are also black as well. Now, through whitewashing on my, so now through the whitewashing, I know the painting that they have done, you can see that now they have made him white, and they've got the same depiction of him, but now he doesn't look as black as he does in the original. You can go to the next slide. Now, this man was called Ivan the Terrible. Now, for those that don't know, he ruled the Hombrhe Empire, which was an ancient Russian empire at that time. Now, in this painting here, he's having a war with the Khazars, and if you look here on the left where I'm pointing at, he has basically taken over Kagan, which is the capital of the Khazars. And as you see here in the depiction, he's at the front on the horse, and all of his men behind him are black. So Ivan the Terrible, he's also a black man as well. Everyone with him is black, and he's at the front on the horse. And if you could pass the book around, or basically if we could probably zoom in on it, you will also see that he was a black man as well. If you go to the next slide. So now, Louis the Great of Hungary, he was also a black man, and the book is right here, Lurace Encyclopedia, Ancient and Medieval History. And now, they have scratched out his face, his in the middle, but if you look at all of his men to his right and to his left, you will see that these are all so-called black men. So even in the Hungarian empires, black people also ruled there too. Next slide. And there, so now we just showed you that black people ruled in Scotland, Britain, Hungary, Germany, and also all other parts of the European hemisphere as well. So with that, we hope that you got some understanding, and if you have any questions off that, do save that to the end. So we're gonna have a 3-minute break, and then Officer Dungabar, he'll be getting into World War III.
When nowadays I work hard on the job, till I come cross y'all, still like I'm a criminal. Crime and get caught, it could be your first charge. Like, man, you ain't getting the minimum. It go dip, squat, 5-mile run, push, pull, sit on, goddamn, get strong. Looking at my baby, trying to keep them doing wrong. It's too long before they grow, I can't leave them on their own. They killed Daddy like he had a 30-day cake. The news covering up the story, but they say it took me back to the time we lost Otis. Pretending these crackers, they gon' tell you something bogus. And I'm thinking like, damn, what you telling kids? We try to put up a fight, but did we fail the kids? Cause they really got us looking like no damn good. And why success got to cost my manhood?